All right. Looks like we're live now. This is strange. Okay, there we go. Everything's popping up. It just took a second. Everything was a little behind schedule on all the pop-ups that I get to tell me how many people are here and all that. So sorry, got distracted there. All right, we're live. This is the weekly live broadcast, Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. This is most of the time where I am. You can come in here and ask questions if you haven't got them answered through the comments, because I haven't been good about responding to those. Or if you got something you want to talk about with me, you can come in here and talk about with me or whoever else is in the chat for that matter. If I don't know the answer, generally somebody in the chat does know the answer to your question. Let's see. Go through the disclaimers real quick. If you've been here before, you already know. The only things I ask is be polite, be family friendly, don't be rude or hateful with anybody. We can talk about whatever topic you want to talk about, the most controversial things. I don't care. We can have good, friendly debates. Just be respectful about it. Don't, like I said, start cussing anybody, call anybody names, any of those kinds of things. Be respectful. That's all I ask. All right, let's jump into it. We got a couple of people here. Actually, we got 12 people here. We had 16 a minute ago. 4 people left. Maybe it was something I said. I don't know. But either way, 6 likes already. Dawn was the very first one. Says, looks like I'm first here. First like, too. Less than 5 minutes for Chris to appear. I don't have any questions. Just really need to rest after a hard day's work. Well, I hope you get some rest. I did not do, well, I kind of did a hard day's work. I've been pretty busy at work, but I sit behind a desk, work on a computer most of the time, so it's not physically hard, just mentally challenging sometimes. But anyhow, it wasn't that bad. I'm sure yours was much harder than mine. Shane says, hello, Chris and viewers. My quail breeders have slowed down on eggs. My wife collected 19 eggs last week while I was in South Carolina for work. 2 of our hatchlings started laying this week at 6 weeks old. Well, that's pretty good. And then you said the 19 eggs went into the incubator Sunday night. Well, good luck on that hatch. Hopefully that goes well. Let's see. You say they have slowed down on eggs. You know, my quail have kind of slowed down the last couple of days too. I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if they got something stressed them out, because I did find one bird deceased just out of nowhere, just all of a sudden. And ever since then, the egg production's been a little bit low. That's only been a couple of days, but it's starting to pick up already. They'll pick back up. If you don't already, you might, if you want eggs during the wintertime, as the days get shorter, they're going to start slowing down. They need a good 14 hours of daylight every day in order to continue laying eggs. So you might pick up a light, put it on their hutch, extend the daylight. I've got a solar light in my Amazon shop that I use. It's a dusk to dawn light, so it comes on right as it dusk and stays on until the battery runs down. And it's done a pretty good job of keeping them laying pretty much all winter long. So that's a thought if you really want to bump the egg production back up. But anyway, good luck with your hatch. Hopefully that goes well. Let's see. Dawn says says to Sean, that's great. Mine are all laying except for babies. No one slows down because I use lights. Yeah, like I said, mine have slowed down a little bit, but I'm sure they'll pick right back up in a couple of days. There may have been something that got at them. I don't really know. Have no idea. Dawn says, time for me to rest and watch this, taking a break for the night now. LOL. Hey, I don't blame you. If you worked hard today, you deserve it. Andy said, hey, everybody from Southwest Michigan. How are you, Chris? I'm doing pretty well. Hopefully you are too. I don't know how the weather is up there in Southwest Michigan. Probably about the same as it is here. It's been pretty hot. We had a little bit of a break a week or 2 ago, and then it heated back up. So real close to 100 degrees every day. It's been pretty warm. But I have not had to mow the yard in like almost 3 weeks because we haven't had much rain. We did get a little bit this week, not much, but a little. Actually, I think it was quite a bit, but it was all one day and just a couple hours. Kit and Son says, my birds are so sensitive like that. They don't appreciate anything out of routine. They won't lay. Yeah, they do tend to get stressed out whenever usually not too bad unless you're moving them from one area to another, like one cage to another, or, they start molting or something like that. That's usually about the only times that they really get too stressed out. But, they can be a little bit more sensitive too. So Alan Pulley says, hey, Chris and everyone, hello to you. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Let's see. Farmer Marshall says, hey, Chris, I finally got it right. I put 16 quail eggs into the new incubator and 12 hatched out. I still have one more that's trying to get out of the egg. Well, that's fantastic. That's a really good hatch rate. So well done. Congratulations. Tim Rollins says, good evening from Palatka, Florida. Is that it? First time joining you guys. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate that. And hopefully I pronounced that right. I've never heard of that before. Then we got Kiernesy. I always forget how to pronounce your name. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right or not. But anyway, it says morning from Australia. Yeah, it is morning time there, isn't it? That's so strange, isn't it? That it's evening here, morning there. It's also winter there, summer here. Anyway, Dawn says, I have a lockdown Monday on those eggs that were lost for 15 days in the mail. I'll candle that lockdown to see if they cooked in the post office back then. Yeah, well, good luck. I hope that works out. I kind of have my doubts how well that's going to go because, like you said, 15 days in the mail. Really, I mean, that's a long time, whether they got, overheated or not, that's just a long time. Usually after about 7 days, you start seeing fertility drop. But hey, who knows? Why not try, right? So good luck. I hope it does well. Tony from Toronto is here. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. What's up, Max? And all of a sudden the chat has dried up. And if you guys know, I mean, you that have been here before, I don't have anything planned to talk about when the chat stops. I just stop, kind of babble for a little while until it picks back up because really I just do my best to respond to all the chat that comes in during the live broadcast. Andy says, what temperature should I store my quail eggs at? Quail eggs I'm getting for a hatch. Okay, so, the ideal temperatures are somewhere between about 50 degrees and 70 degrees, somewhere right around in that range. It's not terribly finicky. I mean, you don't have to have any kind of exact temperature. If you get down in the mid 40s, you're going to be okay. If you get up to like 74-ish, 75-ish, you're probably going to be okay too. The only thing you worry is if you get up too much higher than that, they'll start to develop, and then that can affect your hatch rate. So the way I do that is I put them in a cooler. I put them in a egg carton. Mist them down with my Listerine water mix. It's a 50% Listerine, gold Listerine, 50% water. You can use rubbing alcohol, peroxide. There's a lot of different ways you could do that. That just helps kind of sanitize them a little bit, cut back on the bacteria issues if you have any. Put them in an egg carton. I set it on a mason jar so it sits like this, kind of at an angle. And I put one of those ice packs from the freezer in there at one end of the cooler. It's just a pretty small cooler. So that doesn't really keep the whole thing frozen or anything. It just keeps it cooler. And I just replace that ice pack every day. And when I do, I turn the carton around so the eggs get turned. So they're sitting like this and then basically like that the next day, if that makes sense. And that works out pretty well. It does fine keeping them cool enough. I'm just trying to keep them below, try to keep them 70 degrees or below is my goal. You don't want to put them in your refrigerator. That's a little too cold. That'll probably kill them off, although people have hatched eggs from the refrigerator before. But that's not your best practice. Hopefully that gave you what you needed to know on that. All right, we got 22 people here, 13 likes so far, and the chat is pretty slow tonight. I'm going to have to see if I can come up with some things to talk about. I don't have anything terribly exciting going on right now. All right, are we still live? Did I lose connection or something? There we go. There's another one. We got G. Michael Jr. says, hey, Chris and everyone from Salt Lake City, Utah. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Appreciate that. I've never been to Utah. I would like to visit someday. I think it's a pretty cool place. I don't know if Salt Lake City is where I'd go, but there are several places out that direction. I haven't spent much time in that part of the country, and I'd like to go out and visit someday. Don says, read slower, Chris. Hey, I should do that. I need to talk slower too, right? I do talk fast. I know that. So yeah, talk slower. It's very difficult for me to do. I can't do it. I wouldn't sound right if I was talking slower. Let's see. Did anything exciting happen this week? Well, like I said, I didn't have to mow the yard this weekend or last weekend. I don't know if I've gone 3 weeks or just 2 weeks now. This will be 3 weeks. And I don't know if I'm going to have to mow this weekend either. That's kind of nice in the middle of summer not to have to mow. Kitten Son says, weird question. Have you found out if pointier eggs hatch out as male birds? I feel like there might be a little truth. No, that's a farce. There's no truth to that whatsoever. There is some truth to the temperature. I did a video on this years ago. The temperature that you incubate at can result in more roosters hatching versus hens or vice versa, but it doesn't change what the egg is. I mean, the egg it's either a rooster or a hen whenever the hen lays it. So I mean, it doesn't change that. There's no way to change that. All it does is makes it more favorable for roosters to hatch or more favorable for hens to hatch. And I don't remember if we're talking just a little bit like 1 degree difference in temperature. But I can't remember if it's higher temperature as roosters or if higher temperature as hens. But either way, unless you're just specifically looking to limit the amount of roosters that you're having hatch, because it's going to affect your overall hatch rate, it's going to be pretty bad. You just have more likelihood of hens hatching at a certain temperature. But I wouldn't do that, honestly. I would just go with hatch it out, whatever's hatch. If you dip too many roosters, just eat them. That's kind of the way I do it. But no, there's no truth to the egg shape being anything to do with whether it's a rooster or a hen inside the egg. Shane says, with my 6+ week old quail, I have one that got beat up a couple of days ago. Today I came home to a second one bleeding from the head, found aggressive one and removed. Can the two beat up be caged together? They should be fine. In fact, I would probably leave them in there with the rest of the birds just because, and maybe I take the wrong approach to this, but this is the way I do it. I figure if they make it, great. If they don't make it, well, they didn't make it, unfortunately. That kind of sucks. But leaving them in there with them avoids you having to reintroduce them later on. Because if you've separated them out and you keep them separate till they heal and then try to move them back in, they're going to get beat up all over again because of the territorial, the way that quail get territorial about their areas. So they almost always will attack any kind of newcomers coming in, unless they're babies, like 2-3 weeks old. Then they let those in just fine. But if you try to move adult quail in with them, especially during breeding season when they're laying eggs and the roosters are crowing, you're going to have some problems with them. They're going to beat the other birds up. So I would just leave them in there with the others. Hopefully they make it. I just kind of, you got the aggressive one out. Hopefully you don't have another one that's aggressive. You probably don't. I've had some birds recover from some pretty bad injuries and do just fine. So that's the way I do it. Dawn says, we haven't mowed in a couple of weeks. It's about half brown and so dry it isn't growing. It's not, mine's not really growing either. It's pretty dead right now. Not enough rain. We had so much rain early in the season. I mean, just tons of it. It was raining like every day, it seemed like. And then it just dried up and no rain. We did get some rain a couple days ago, enough that the ditch back there behind my house was running water. So it was enough. I mean, where I was working, I work in Kansas, just across the line. I live in Joplin, Missouri. It's very southwest corner. And I think it's like a 15-minute drive to work, but it is Kansas. And where I was working there, it didn't rain very much. But when we came home, that ditch was running water and it was sprinkling here. So I think it had probably rained a decent amount. But it was all just one day and that was it. And we haven't had any rain since. Andy says, love your shirt. Thank you. Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones. It says, if you can't read it, Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. And there's truth in that for sure. Let's see. G. Michael Jr. says, there is plenty to see in Utah. By the way, how is cleanup going from the last big storm in your area? Well, I don't know. We had some decent storms, but I don't know of any in my area that were that bad. There wasn't really much cleanup to do. There wasn't anything bad around here. Maybe somewhat close by there may have been. I can't remember now what happened earlier in the spring, the last big storm that came through, if it did really much damage anywhere. Maybe there's something you saw in the news you're thinking about, you can remind me, but I don't think there's been any major issues this year so far. Honestly, we had, if you know anything about Joplin, Missouri, if you don't, you can look it up, the Joplin tornado. But that was back in 2010, so it's been like 15 years, I think. I think it was 2010. Let me look that up real quick and make sure I've got that date right. 2011, I guess it was. So I was close, 2011. So it's been a while, and since then, God has been just watching over us. We haven't had any real major issues from storms. Usually we get really bad ones that come through in the spring, and it's been pretty mild ever since then, really. Not bad at all. So God is good to us. Tony says, hi from Toronto. Again. I already said hi to you once, but maybe you didn't catch that. So, but that's okay. Say hi again if you want to. I don't care. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, hey, Chris and everyone, my 2 New Zealand does both had 6 kits each, both doing good. Well, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that. I sold one of my Tamuk babies the other day, posted them up for sale. They're not going nearly as fast as the silver foxes. There doesn't seem to be nearly as much interest in them. But I did sell one to somebody that wanted to buy it as a pet. And I told them, I said, these may not be the best pets, but they bought it for their daughter. Their daughter had previously had a Flemish giant, and it died, so they got a replacement. They wanted one that was similar. Okay, go for it. Hopefully it does well. Cindy says, hello, everyone from Minnesota. Good to see you. Thank you for joining tonight. Appreciate that. Don says, I planted a quick batch of green beans today, hoping to beat fall frost and end of October in a drought crack, laughing about not having to dig a hole there. Oh, in a drought crack. Okay, gotcha. Okay, that was hard for me to read for some reason, but I get what you're saying. Basically, there was a crack in the ground from the drought, and you just planted them in the crack. You didn't have to dig a hole or anything like that. You should have time. Green beans go pretty quick. And if you're anything like us, our seasons seem to have shifted a little bit. So, our average first frost date's like October 15th, but it really seems to be more like November. It's like a couple of weeks later than what it usually is, at least the last couple of years. So, yeah, it's you'll probably be okay. Kitten Son says, love it. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but good. It was probably something that I was talking about at the time you typed that. I think there's a little delay, so that's probably what happened there. But anyway, Farmer Marshall says, looking to find some decent solar lights for my hens will lay year round. Well, the ones in my Amazon shop are the ones that I'm using right now. They've done really, really well and held up for like a couple of years. And I just leave them on all year long. I probably should take them off in the summer because they don't need that much light. But I just leave them on there all year long, and they've done really well. They kept my birds laying. Usually I have problems even like late December to about mid-January. The solar lights just can't keep up. But these did a pretty good job. I don't know that I had much of a break at all in egg production last year. So you might give them a try. And they just automatically come on. That's the good thing, too. You don't have to go out and turn them on. They just come on as soon as it gets dark, or as soon as it starts to get dark. Marine Veal says, I finally started my meat rabbit journey. Not much to choose from near me. I got 2 chinchilla does, 1 New Zealand buck. We'll try breeding soon. Looking forward to getting babies before winter. Yeah, I will warn you about those chinchilla. I had one of the giant chinchillas for a while, and they make a decent meat rabbit, but good grief, those babies are cute. I mean, they are the cutest little baby bunnies. It was very hard to process them when it came time. But yeah, those should work just fine for you. So hopefully they do. The best of my American breast homestead says, I found out higher the price of the rabbit or chicken, the harder to sell. You're better to breed for your own consumption. If somebody else buys, let it be a blessing. That's pretty much what I do. I offer them up for sale. If nobody buys them, then they get processed, and that's what we'd eat. But if I can sell them for $30 a rabbit, well, that beats eating them. That's a better deal. But if I don't, then no big deal. I'll eat them. Don says the beans will probably grow slower with the day length shortening now. That might have a little bit effect on them. I'm not real sure. I don't know. Farmer Marshall says, thanks, I'll check your shop out. Yeah, it's in the description of all my YouTube videos. So if you go to any of them, you'll see a link that you can get to it, or you can just look it up either way. I think you can just Google Slightly Redneck YouTube or Amazon shop, and it will probably take you right to it. I do get a commission if you buy from there. It's not much. It doesn't cost you any more. But if it bothers you, I can look them up and tell you what they are, and you can look them up on your own, I guess. Sax Place says, good evening from Southwest Ohio. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining tonight. Appreciate that. You guys had some storms coming through a week or two ago, didn't you? I think. I can't remember now. Maureen says, thanks for the warning. I'm sure it will be hard. I keep telling myself they are for food. I mean, that's all you can do. And all baby rabbits are cute to me, but man, those chinchillas were super cute. I did have a little bit of problem with nest box eye with them, which is kind of like an eye infection on the babies. But if you just get like some chamomile tea, get a bag, basically brew the tea with a little bit of honey in it, and then use that tea bag to kind of wipe their eye out every day. It clears right up. It's not that big of a deal. But that's the only ones I've ever had that problem with, and it wasn't terrible. It was easy enough to take care of, but I did have that little bit of problem. Sox Place says, yeah, we've had storms at least once a week this whole year. Lost a few big trees. Oh, that sucks. I'm still dealing with the tree that I lost last year. It's all down. I don't know if I've told this story or not. I had somebody come by. Basically, I cut it as much as I could. It was all hung up in another tree. If you remember, I shot video on it. You may have seen it, you may not have. But anyhow, it was all hung up in another tree, and it was a big tree, a big cottonwood tree, probably, 150 years old. It was an old tree. But anyway, when it fell, it landed kind of in another tree, so it was all up in the air. And I cut everything I could before it started kind of shifting and sounding like it might come down. Then I hired somebody to take it the rest of the way to the ground. So they got it all down to the ground, and I was working on getting it all cut up. But good grief, some of the logs were this big around. I don't have that big of a chainsaw. They were bigger than that probably. Anyway, they're huge. And some guy came by, just randomly knocked on the door and wanted to know if I wanted to get rid of that tree. Brought his, I don't know who it is. It's some nephew, I think, something over. They cut it all up, planned on coming and getting it. They haven't done it yet. They were working pretty hard on it, getting it all cut up, and they've got it all cut up, not terribly small. He's going to take it, load it up, take it away, and then finish cutting it all up. He wanted it for firewood. But anyhow, they were doing a pretty good job of that, and then all the rain early in the season, he couldn't do it because he couldn't get a trailer, over here, sink in the ground. And then it got hot. So I'm guessing he's waiting until fall. He'll probably come and get it. Maureen says, good info. Thanks. I will get the tea to have on hand just in case. Yeah, it's not one of those things you have to address like immediately. You can probably go to the store and get it whenever you have that problem, but it's not a bad idea to have some on hand anyway. It's cheap enough. And that's a good way to take care of it without having to spend a lot of money on, actual medications or anything like that. There's a lot of things that you can treat yourself that are pretty good. And then there's some things you do need to go to a vet or you need to get some kind of medication for. I have never found anything that works very well, and I'm thinking of my dog here, to take care of like fleas and ticks, except for prescription stuff from the vet. There's no holistic stuff that I found, or any of the cheap stuff you buy at Walmart, or any of that kind of stuff that really does a good job on that. And the stuff I get from the vet prevents heartworms, intestinal worms, ticks, fleas, all that stuff. So, that I don't use home remedies for, but things like ear mites in rabbits, or even in dogs or cats for that matter, you can treat it the same way, just a food grade oil. I use the spray olive oil stuff because it's a little easier to get in their ears. They don't like it and they'll shake their heads. But you just need a few drops or a spray or two in their ear every day until the scabs disappear. Don't scrape the scabs off. Just wait till they disappear. Maybe every other day for another week afterwards to make sure you got them all, and that's it. You're done taken care of. Wesley says, where can I find the red eye white Tamuk New Zealand white line? Well, any Tamuks, as far as I know, are all red-eyed white New Zealands. There's a guy locally here that was selling some. That's where I got mine. I don't know where. You just have to search Craigslist or something in your area. I don't know exactly where to tell you to get them. I'm sure if you look at like the American Rabbit Breeders Association or something, there's probably somebody that sells them, and probably better bloodlines than what I got. Mine are a little bit on the smaller side, but you might have to travel a little ways for it. I just don't know for sure. Shane says, pretty sure I have black soldier fly larvae under my cages now, breaking down the waste pretty good, but the wife is a little freaked out by the moving ground, LOL. Yeah, my wife, she got used to that pretty quick. She saw the benefit in them. They are fantastic. If you get them around your house just naturally, they're so great to have around. They keep the fly population down. They compost everything down. It's just great. Yeah, and S.O. Swanson says, Shane, just tell her that they're black gold. That's black gold. Yeah, that's it. They compost all that stuff down, and they'll take care of, animal matter and everything. So if you have a bird that dies, you can just toss it down there. Man, they'll clear it out in like a couple of days. It's gone. I shot some video a while back where I had them under there. I had what was it? Was it a bird? I think it was a bird that, well, no, I think I threw one of the bird heads down there or something while I was processing. And anyway, they were just devouring. They had it gone in like less than a day. It was gone. So yeah, they're so good to have around. They make the work a lot easier. I don't have to clean out underneath the quail hutches or the rabbit hutches for that matter until till fall winter time. And then like I said, they keep the flies down. There's just so much better to have than not have. I always get super excited when I see the first one of summer flying around. I'll see them. Okay, usually see the flies, and you don't see them very often. And they don't swarm like house flies do. They're just one or two of them here or there. But when I see one or two of them start, landing near the quail hutches, I'm like, all right, it's coming. I get excited about it. But yeah, if you have black soldier, that sounds like black soldier fly. What you're talking about there, they're pretty good size. I don't know if you call it a maggot, the larva, much bigger than like a fly maggot, much bigger than that, and they do exactly what you're talking about. They just compost everything down. I don't know of anything else that would do that. So sounds like that's what you've got, black soldier fly. What else was I going to say about this? Oh, reminds me, we had a little bit of an issue with little gnats or fruit flies. I'm not sure which they are in the house. And my wife, she likes bananas. So she eats a lot of bananas, like a banana every day. And we thought the bananas were drawing them in because we'd always see them around the bananas. And they may have been where they first came from. But I happened to go out the other day. That, hey, I think we got some bird seed in one of these buckets out here. And I opened the bucket up, and it was just full of gnats. And they had gotten in that old seed in there, and it looked like it had been composted down. And there were just tiny little, larvae. I guess I won't say the other word in there. I think that's the source of our problem. I threw it away. It was so nasty. Threw that away, got rid of it. And I since then our gnat population has really dropped. We did get, one of those, I can't remember what they're called, what brand it is, but we got one of those light traps for bugs. You just plug it in. It's like a little blue light with a sticky thing. It did okay. Not great, but it did okay. Did catch some flies that got in the house. That's good. Didn't do fantastic on the gnats. And we also got some, they look like, it's Taro brand, I believe. It looks like a little apple, basically, and it draws them into it and has poison. And it did okay, too, but neither one of them did great on taking care of them. Desert Homestead says, contact your local 4-H club or go to a state or county fair to find purebred rabbits. That's a good suggestion. My problem is we don't have state or county fairs anywhere near my house. But the closest one's a little over an hour drive, but that's not that far. I could do that. Shane says, for black soldier fly, I showed her a picture and told her not to kill them. Yeah, I don't know that you could. Anyway, that's a ton of them to try to take out because they just hundreds and maybe thousands of them. They really overpopulate. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, my grandma would spray Skin So Soft on her dogs and they never would get fleas or ticks, and she lived in a heavily wooded area. Yeah, we used to use Skin So Soft as a bug repellent when I was a kid, and it does pretty good. The problem with the dog, and maybe that's the issue that I have when I say I have never found anything that really worked all that well, is you got to be real consistent. You got to do it like every single day, or they're going to get fleas or ticks, and all it takes is to bring the fleas in one time, and then you've got a flea infestation in the house, which is no fun whatsoever. But yeah, that Skin So Soft stuff works pretty well. I don't know if you can still get it. Can you still get Avon Skin So Soft? Let's see. Avon Skin So Soft. Yeah, there's I guess you can still get it. Boy, they're proud of it. That's expensive. But yeah, that's really expensive actually. But it does a good job for keeping bugs off of you, but it's not like water repellent or waterproof, I should say. It's not. DEET works better. But you don't want to spray your dog down with DEET every day either. That's not good. But DEET is what I use whenever I go out in the woods. All right. Chat is slow tonight. Or I'm reading too fast, one or the other, huh? Shane says, for gnats or fruit flies, you can build traps with vinegar and soap that catches them well. Put it in a small dish with saran wrap with holes. Yeah, I tried that. It did not work that well. It drew a few in, but no, it didn't get anywhere near all of them. They would, land on the saran wrap, and then fly away. And they didn't really crawl inside, and it didn't work. Buck Reynolds says, hello, everyone. Hope all of yins are well. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. Sax Place says, any good rabbit recipes? Butchering 7 this weekend. Boy, put me on the spot here. Yeah, I mean, you can just cook it like you do chicken, basically. I would avoid frying it. But any kind of crock pot or braising or, oven recipe that has like some kind of liquid with it or something, something that's a little bit more heavily seasoned, any of those recipes are going to do really well with rabbit. Think of it like chicken breast in a lot of ways. It's very lean, so it doesn't really fry necessarily very well. But if you can add some kind of liquid, and it's very kind of bland. So it doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own. It will take on the flavor of whatever you cook it with. So there's a whole lot of things that you can do. Yeah, basically, I know I'm not giving you a specific recipe, but yeah, any kind of chicken recipe that kind of falls into that area would work pretty well. One thing that I've done in a pinch that works really well, go to the store and I buy those McCormick. I haven't done this in a very long time, but I do like them. The McCormick bag in seasoning for chicken comes with like a little plastic bag of seasoning. You're supposed to throw some vegetables and chicken in it. I just replace the chicken with rabbit, and then you seal the bag up and you bake it for a certain amount of time. And those are actually pretty good. I like those quite a bit. Usually just throw some carrots and potatoes in there with it. And that does pretty well, and it's pretty easy. Buck says, I like it fried. Well, yeah, I don't think it fries up very well. But that's just me. I think it's too lean for frying, but that's just me. Kirsty says, is there much of a taste difference between wild rabbit and rabbits you breed at home? Yeah, there is. Wild rabbits do have a little bit of a gamier taste to them. And they're much, much smaller. The wild rabbits we have here anyway, they're Eastern Cottontails, what we have. They're nowhere near the size of a regular rabbit, but they are much smaller too. And they do have a gamier flavor. I think I just said nowhere near the size and much smaller. It's a little redundant. But anyway, they're much gamier flavor. There's a little bit more to that than there is to a domestic rabbit. Domestic rabbits, there's not a whole lot of, it's kind of bland. It's not a whole lot of flavor to it. You need to really add stuff to flavor it up, or it's going to be very bland. Sax Place says, older ones are becoming jerky, tough. Young ones may get crock pot with sauerkraut. Thought about smoking 1 or 2. I have smoked rabbit before. That's not bad. That's pretty good. The way we've done it is we've smoked a couple, several of them at one time, and then put them in, vacuum seal bags with some butter, some herbs like rosemary or thyme or something like that. Sealed that up, and then whenever you're ready for it, you just put the whole bag in like a pot of simmering water and heat it up that way inside the bag, and it's ready to go. And that worked out pretty well. Those were pretty good. But yeah, I don't know about crock pot with sauerkraut on it. I did try, what is that German dish? Pickled rabbit, basically. Like Hassenpfeffer, I think it is. Anyway, I tried that before. It's got a lot of vinegar and stuff, and it was not good. Not something I really enjoyed at all. I do like sauerkraut quite a bit, but not with like chicken or rabbit or something. To me, that goes with like beef, corned beef, sausage, that kind of stuff. I don't know why. Just different tastes, I guess. But I have crock-potted rabbit plenty of times. It does pretty well that way. Then you shred it up like you would chicken. You can do, it does fine to use like you would like shredded chicken tacos or enchiladas or any of those quesadillas, any of that kind of stuff does pretty well. Let's see. Jalopy Guy says, I just arrived in Wisconsin for a family reunion this weekend, but might be interested in a Timuck on the way back. 1,845 miles to Washington. Boy, that's a long way. Did you drive that? That's a long drive. But, yeah, I don't know where to tell you how long the way to go, unfortunately. I wish I did. Sax Place says, I have German heritage, so, LOL. I have primarily Irish heritage. I don't know. You would think maybe I would like pickled stuff more. I don't know. I do like pickled stuff. I like sauerkraut. I've made sauerkraut before. It's super easy to make. and it's fantastic compared to like store-bought jarred stuff that's all kind of mushy. This stuff stays crisp, and oh, it's so good. But I don't really like it on like white meat, like chicken, and I don't think I would like it on rabbit. Maybe, I don't know. Jalopy says yes, you drove it. Good grief, man. It was a long drive. Shane says, how would rabbit be cooked like a Mississippi pot roast? I don't know. I mean, I imagine that would be okay, I guess. Except for Mississippi pot roast usually has like au jus in it, which is like a beef, basically beef broth, kind of, which I guess it would be okay. I don't know, honestly. I don't know how well it would do. Try it out and see. I mean, what do you got to lose, right? How bad could it be? I think it would do well, like like I do quail this way sometimes. I haven't done rabbit, but I imagine it would work pretty well. It's like a basic saute where you basically just kind of lightly, dust it with flour, seasoned flour, salt, pepper, or whatever. Dust it, kind of brown it on each side, take it out, make a roux, thin that out with some onions and, mushrooms and whatever you kind of like in there. Put the rabbit pieces back in there, let it simmer until they're done, basically. And it would do pretty well that way, too. Aquatic News Network is here. Says, howdy, Earthlings. Been here, but was eating dinner. Hey, it's all good, man. We're glad you're here either way. I say, man, I don't know if you're male or female, but don't be offended by that, hopefully. Let's see how we doing on time. We got 20 minutes left, or 24 minutes, actually. Aquatic News Network says, Sax, my nickname was Sack in junior high because of my last name. I don't know that I had a nickname in junior high. I'm sure I did of some kind, but I don't know what it was. I was a very short kid up until like high school. When I was in 6th grade, I was the shortest kid in the entire school, and we had 1st through 6th grade going to school there. So I was a 6th grader, and I was shorter than all the 1st graders. Let's see. So Swanson says, hey, Tommy, the Aquatic News Network, don't talk with your mouth full. Aquatic News Network says, I'm a dude. All that is, dude, but I'll respond to anything. Yeah, you've probably been called worse, right? Sax Place says, Aquatic News Network. Let's see, my last name is Sackenheim. I had many nicknames, I bet. I bet you did, yeah. Yeah, that sounds German. Bill Cox says, hi, all. I haven't tried, but I would think any Asian dish normally made with chicken, replace it with rabbit. Yeah, probably. And Aquatic News Network says, Tatsack. That's your last name, Tatsack? Here. Yep, heard lots of them. Is that Asian? Is that what? I don't know what that is. I like to kind of try to guess like heritage of names. Like my last name is Carnes. That's an Irish name. My mom's last name, her maiden name, I probably shouldn't say this, but I will, was Ardrey. That's Irish. So, I mean, I have Irish from both sides of my family coming in. And then, a little bit of other stuff mixed in, but primarily Irish. I don't know what that last name is, but did I kill the conversation? Nobody's responding. There's no chat coming in. Looks like we're still live. I always worry that we've lost the Kiernsy says Kearns is my last name, also Irish heritage. Yeah, that comes from the same Carnes, Kearns. It comes from the same root name, which was O'Kearney. I can't remember, but there was a Irish name, Irish, where all those names come from that one root name in Ireland. So yeah, we're probably distantly related if you go back far enough. And just about everybody, this is kind of funny. I have okay, Aquatic News Network says it's Czech, Ukrainian, German mix. It's pronounced Thought Shock. Okay. And it in Czech, Thought Shockavonik, something like that. I don't know. So okay. Anyway, what I was going to say is, if you go back far enough in your heritage, you probably have royalty in your heritage. And I remember one time I was, there was somebody saying, "Hey, we've gone back, traced our family tree back to whatever king or whatever. We had royalty in our family line somewhere along the way." And this guy, he knows a lot. He's a really smart guy, but he was like, "Well, almost everybody does. I mean, if you think about it, because really, like Joe the goat herder just didn't make it. He didn't produce any offspring. He didn't make it. Only the kind of wealthy did. So if you go back far enough, almost everybody's got royalty in their heritage." Shane says, I was also the smallest guy in my class, graduated at 105 pounds and 25-inch waist. My nickname was Muscles, given to me by a history teacher. My classmates still use it. Interesting. Yeah, I was, when I was still pretty short in high school. Maybe one of the shorter guys in the class, but not as bad as like grade school. That was the worst. I was the shortest kid, period. All the girls were taller than me, everything. I was short, tiny little guy. When I graduated high school, I think I was 160 pounds at a 29-inch waist, and I've considerably grown since then. But I'm only 5'9" now, so I'm like average height. I'm not overly short, but I am, believe it or not, the tallest person in my entire family. I have two cousins, well, one now because one of them passed, but I have two cousins that were taller than me, and they had Marfan syndrome, which is, they call it Abe Lincoln's disease, makes you grow tall, thin, have heart problems, that kind of thing. But other than that, I'm taller than pretty much everybody in my family. When I go to like family reunion, I just tower over everybody. It's very strange. My dad was real close to my height. I think I beat him by about half an inch. But all my aunts, his sisters, there were 8 of them, and he was the middle child. But anyway, they're all like 4'5", 4'6", 4'4". I mean, they're all really short. Aquatic News Network says it's such a unique last name that anybody that has it is a relative of mine, 100% guaranteed. Yep, I believe that. Aquatic News Network says I was 5'6" to 5'7" until my sophomore year of high school, and then sprung up to 6'4" that year. I slept a lot then, LOL. Yeah, I bet that hurt too. Growing that fast, I remember getting leg pains and stuff from like growing pains, and that's a real thing. I bet that hurt, growing that much in 1 year. Was probably pretty painful. But I grew from like, I think I was 4'5" or something when I went out of grade school, and maybe going into junior high I was like 4'5", 4'6", it was a little bit slower growth, but I ended up, by the time I graduated high school, I was about 5'7", 5'8". Maybe put on another inch or two since then, and now I'll probably start going the other way because I'll start shrinking. That's what happens, right? Hey, there's Andy Rabbit. Good to see you. I guess Don reached out and reminded you about it. That's okay. You can miss a live broadcast. You don't have to be here every time. It's okay. It doesn't hurt my feelings. Aquatic News Network says I'm the short one at 6'4". My great grandpa from Ireland was over 7 feet tall. That's strange for Irish people, huh? From my mom's sides, Danish, Irish, and English. So interesting. I think I'm pretty sure we've got some Danish. We've got a little bit of Native American blood. Not a lot. I think it's Cherokee and Apache is what we have, but mostly Irish. I mean, I look Irish, right? Kind of. Let's see, average height. What is the average height for Irish? Oh, yeah, about 5'10". 5'10" is the average. About what I am, 5'9"-ish, 5'10". So yeah, 7 foot tall though. That's incredibly tall for anybody. Every once in a while, you see an anomaly like that though, like what the guy from, is he Chinese? The basketball player that's like 7 foot tall. Andy Rabbit says, getting ready for school. I'll be homeschooling my granddaughter this year. Wish me luck. Good luck, and good for you too though. Hopefully that goes well, because I don't know. I'd be scared to death to put kids in public school nowadays. I think homeschooling is a way better deal. Way better deal. But anyway, Aquatic News Network says, me too. I look a lot Irish, but I can tan very well. I do too, actually. But I tan kind of reddish. I don't know, you're probably not showing up on camera. Got a little bit of a tan here. I do. I tan kind of reddish. I think that's the small amount of Indian blood I have. Either that or it's like I'm slightly rednecked. That's it. I'm just kind of tan reddish. We're getting some weird conversation going on. We always do have some strange conversation, don't we? Last week it was all about snakes. We talked about snakes for most of the broadcast. Sunshine Gypsy says, "Hey Chris, hope you're doing well. I checked my quail today and I've got a hen missing feathers middle ways down her back. Do you think she's pecked by another bird or mating?" I think it means molting. Or maybe you mean mating. Is she pecked by another bird or mating? I mean, it could be a combination of things. If it's just one bird, it could be molting if you're not seeing like blood or scabs or any of those kinds of things. It could be some mating behavior that can sometimes do that. You said middle ways down her back. I mean, there could be a little bit of aggression there too. What protein level is your feed? If it's below, like, say, if it's 18% or below, then you might worry a little bit about that. Low protein can lead to feather pecking because feathers are pretty high in, or feather plucking, I should say. Feathers are pretty high in protein, so they use that to kind of replenish it. But if you're at like 20% or above, that's probably not the issue. I don't know that it's anything I would necessarily worry about. Unless you're seeing like open wounds or something like that, I don't think it would be that big of a deal. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Shane says, I also tan reddish, but I'm a ginger. Oh, well, that would make a difference. Yeah, that's called sunburn, not tan. Sax Place says, snakes? Man, sorry I missed that. I have 6 pet snakes. Yeah, we weren't really talking about pet snakes necessarily. We were talking about wild snakes and how to tell venomous from non-venomous and what to do and all that kind of stuff, but all kinds of stuff. But I used to have at one time I had 40 different snakes. I wanted to be a herpetologist, but that was 25 years ago, probably longer. Sunshine Gypsy says, yes, just one bird. They're only a few months old. She could be molting at a few months. It's not unheard of. They tend to want to molt towards the end of summer for some reason. I don't know why. It seems like a terrible time to do it, but my birds always want to molt going into wintertime. Aquatic News Network says, I homeschool 3 kiddos. Andy, you got this. I got all the faith in it for you. I believe you can too. Cindy Rapp says, kudos to you, Andy. I don't think I could train myself to do that job. Sunshine Gypsy says 28% protein, I think. Well, then you're probably fine. I wouldn't worry about it too much. You see some of those things going on. Sometimes birds lose feathers for whatever reason. Unless you're seeing, like I said, open wounds, lots of bleeding, birds picking on them, something like that. I don't think I'd worry about it too much. Patricia Russell says, God made a few perfect heads, the rest he covered with hair. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know if I'd call mine perfect. I do have hair. I mean, it will grow. It's just I get nothing right here, that whole spot right there, especially right on top. It'll grow a little bit right here, not much. So I just eventually got to a point where I was like, why am I paying somebody to cut my hair? And I just shaved it. And it's way easier. And Sunshine Gypsy says she's the only one that looks like this. Yeah, again, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Give her some time. I'm sure the feathers will regrow just fine. I've had birds that lost some feathers and just never regrew them and just did fine without them. They look a little scraggly, but they were fine. But I don't know that it's any sign of anything bad happening. Wishful Dreamer says, have you seen the news reports last couple of days? Colorado area rabbits with tentacles and how might affect pet rabbits. Papilloma virus. I saw something about that. I didn't read the story though. It just came up in my feed or something somewhere, and I was like, I'll check into that later, and I just never did. So it's papilloma virus. Interesting. I did see that they said it was nothing to worry about. I got to look that up. I'll take a look at that a little bit later. Yeah, look at that. It comes right up in the search. Well, there's the first one. Are rabbits in Colorado really growing tentacles? The truth. Well, as far as I know, it's true, right? So it's looks like that virus is a member of the same family that can cause warts in humans. have to look into that a little bit and see if that's something that can affect domestic rabbits. And I don't know if I don't know that it's anything to worry about, even if it is. But Sunshine Gypsy says, thank you, Chris. You're absolutely welcome. Dewdrop says, as part of my grief therapy, I am building a slightly redneck hutch, ordered hatching eggs, a Dale's Quail brooder, and have my incubator ready. Well, I'm sorry you're having to do some kind of grief therapy. I don't know what that's about, but that's, you don't have to share. That's okay. But we'll be praying for you either way. And hopefully you have good success with your hatch. I don't think you can go wrong with the Dale's Quail brooder. I use one. They're great. And, that my quail hutch has worked very well for me. Hopefully it works very well for you too. Andy Rabbit says, I hope I can get this homeschooling thing down. Andy Rabbit, I'm betting you can. I mean, there are resources out there, lots of homeschooling groups that'll share with you. You can do it. Trust me, you can do it. If you've seen the way the school systems are acting or are doing nowadays, trust me, you'll be fine. Don says, Andy Rabbit, I have faith in you. You will get it. With all you have been through so far, this will work. I agree. Hardest part's going to be just establishing routine and getting it done every day, that kind of thing. But you'd be surprised how much you can get done and how much you can teach in a day when you have just one kid that you have to focus on. Shane says, Patricia, I always say grass doesn't grow on a busy street when called out about my bald head, LOL. That's a good one, too. Kinsey says, that rabbit with tentacles made headlines here in Australia. And Bill Cox says, maybe a new strain of jackalope. That's the very first thing I saw when I saw the picture. I thought it was, jackalopes, and it was some kind of spoof story. And then I saw, no, they're actually growing tentacles. Andy Rabbit says, I'm going to a homestead conference tomorrow. I'm sure you'll pick up quite a bit there. I'm sure it will go well. Doina says, to Shane, one of my high school teachers used to say that bald men were the funniest because their hair grows inwards and tickles their brain. Maybe. I'm like I said, I shave my head. It's not completely bald naturally, but I do have a big bald spot right there in the middle. So I just shave it all off instead of trying to. Because, when you have partially bald head, you can't let your hair grow out very long at all. You really got to keep it short, or otherwise it looks like you're trying to cover it up, and it looks ridiculous. So it's a lot of maintenance to try to keep it cut short. So like I said, it's easier just to shave it, just to be done with it. Plus, makes me look tough, right? I don't know about that, but Doina says he had proof of the hair growing inwards. He had an amazing goatee. There you go. I'm doing okay with mine. It's not bad. I don't grow it too long, but it grows all right. That's the one part here in my ears. I want to grow hair out of my ears for some reason. I know that's a common thing, but getting old is not fun. You start losing hair in some places and growing it in others. It could be worse. I'm not an incredibly hairy person. I mean, you can tell. I don't have. There's hair on my arms. You can't hardly see it because it's light, and it's fairly light colored, and doesn't show up very well. But likely, I don't have to worry. I'm not super hairy all over either, so that's good for me anyway. I think it's good. My wife seems to be okay with it. All right, we got 7 minutes left. The chat's kind of dying down here. We get off on some strange topics, don't we? Shane says, I also have an amazing goatee. That's about all I can grow. I don't think I could grow a full beard. I got big patches on the sides, like right here, that just don't grow any hair. So I think it would be a very shaggy, patchy beard if I tried to grow a full one. My wife doesn't really like full beard anyway, so I won't be doing that probably. Sax Place says, my niece called my... I don't know. He retracted. He's probably going to repost it. And Doina says, theory proved. That could be. Maybe. I don't know. Six minutes left. If you guys got anything you want to talk about, get it in quick. Desert Homestead says, I built a hutch like yours and I use 19 gauge galvanized 1/2 inch hardware cloth from Amazon. I think it is bad on their feet. I can't find thicker gauge. Going to try vinyl coated 19 gauge. Any thoughts? That's probably a better option. I use just regular hardware cloth. I don't really have too many foot problems, but every once in a while, especially older birds, as they get older, about the time I'm ready to process them anyway, they might start developing some like leg issues and stuff like that. And it is probably better to have the vinyl coated. It's a bigger round wire and it will do better for them, I think. I think I would go probably a little bigger than 1/2 inch, like maybe 1 inch by 1/2 inch. It'll keep your cost down a little bit. And it's also big enough to let the droppings fall through. But that coated wire, that, thickness to it is going to be better on their feet for sure. It's just kind of pricey. Sax Place says, my niece called me Uncle Si with my long goatee for a few years ago. Yeah, I've never grown one really long, but anyway. Shane says, just now getting a pop-up shower. Temp dropped nice. Yeah, that's the good thing about summer rain, isn't it? Is it always just drops the temp a little bit, brings a cold front with it. And so you say a cold front, but it's a cool front, really, I guess. But you always feel a little bit of a temperature drop right behind it. It's definitely a nice thing for sure. 4 minutes left. Buck says, get some 14 gauge for the bottom. I haven't been able to find 14 gauge. Well, I mean, there is 14 gauge wire, I guess, but man, it's pricey. And it's not, it's pretty expensive. Anyway, Desert Homestead says, I use 1 by 1/2 inch rabbit wire. Young quail are too small, I think. Yeah, that's the other problem, right? Yeah, because your younger ones, I mean, that's definitely a little bit big for the younger ones to try to be walking on. You're right. I would worry about 1/2 inch coated wire, that it would be too thick to let droppings fall through. They may start gathering up on the cage floor. Doina says, goodness gracious, hit the like button. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. We got 24 likes. We're doing pretty good. Shane says, I get referred to as Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top for my ginger goatee. I got to be a pretty big one, right? Well, I don't know. With Billy Gibbons, did he have I thought he had a full beard, but I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, that's a pretty good sized beard he's got, but it is red. Anyway, I like some ZZ Top. Haven't listened to them in a long time, but definitely a good band. All right, 2 minutes left. What do we got? See what we can get in before we wrap this one up for tonight. Not much, apparently. Shane says, Billy did have a full beard, but I still get it. So, well, I mean, I guess if you got a pretty full goatee and it's really long, I mean, that makes sense. Hey, he's got his beard was down to here. I mean, that was a big. I don't think I could ever grow one quite that long. All right, how are we doing on time? Just a little over a minute left. S.O. Swanson says, as we approach the end, don't forget to thank the wife for sharing you with us again. Much appreciated. Yeah, absolutely, I will do that. Sunshine Gypsy says, have a good night, everyone. You too. Hopefully you do. I should be back next week. I don't see any reason at this point why I won't be unless something comes up. We'll meet back here again. Same place, same time. Shane says, OT takes a couple of years to get that long. Everyone have a great night. Yeah, I can imagine it would take quite a while. But probably longer than that for me. But yep. All right. Time to wrap this one up. Thank you guys for joining tonight. Always appreciate it. Always have a good time hanging out. And like I said, should be back next Thursday. Don't see any reason why I won't be unless something comes up. So we'll see you then. And until then, as always, God bless.